56 passengers were down below deck on this fateful night, having a party, having a big celebration, because they thought they were closer to Melbourne than they actually were. They thought they were on their last night of sailing. Only one man volunteered to stay up on deck and look after the ship, and it was a young man by the name of Tom Pierce. Now, Tom was a ship hand on board. He was one of the sailors, bit of a lower class citizen. Not many people liked him, bit of an alcoholic, but he volunteered to stay up on top and look after the ship. Now, he starts to hear big waves breaking, white water rushing around, and he yells out, "Breakers ahead." Now, breakers ahead can mean a few different things for ships. It can mean either shallow water, which is bad for ships, or cliffs, which are bad for ships. In this case, it actually meant both. Now, only one lady, heard Tom yell this, and it was a young lady by the name of Eva Carmichael. And Eva was the daughter of a rich Irish doctor and an upper-class citizen. And herself and her entire family were on board heading to Australia to visit her brother, who was already living here. So Eva hears Tom yell this and thinks breakers ahead means land ahoy. So she runs up on deck because she wants to be the first person in her family to see Australia. So Tom and Eva are up on deck, everyone else is below. Now, suddenly, they hit Muttonbird Island, one of the land formations out here. They hit it with such force that all the rivets pop out of the top deck, collapsing in on the 54 passengers below, killing them instantly. So from the get-go, Tom and Eva are the only survivors. Now, Tom was over by the middle of the ship he was over by the lifeboats, trying to get them ready. He gets thrown overboard, and one of the lifeboats falls in on top of him, saving his life, because the lifeboat catches all the debris from the ship, all the debris from the island, and all hits the boat instead of Tom. Eva was over by the middle of the ship, and she grabs hold of the mast, which snaps and falls into the water, saving her life, because Eva can't swim. So now she's got something to hold on to and float around in the water on. So they're floating around in the Southern Ocean out here. Now, Tom is the first of the two to get washed in here to Lockhart Gorge. He realises they are... sorry, I'm getting confused now. He's absolutely exhausted by this stage, but he can hear someone screaming out in the ocean, and he knows there's another survivor. So he then spends the next 4 hours battling against the currents in Lockhart Gorge, finds Eva, grabs her by the hair, drags her back in onto the beach. Now, by this stage, they've both spent at least 6 hours out at sea. This is all happening in the middle of winter, in the middle of the night. Hypothermia is setting in. First aid washes up in the form of 2 bottles of brandy, which they drink entirely. Whatever happens next happens. And then they pass out on the beach. Tom is the first of the two to wake up the next morning. He realises they are completely surrounded by huge cliffs on 3 sides and ocean on the other. He then uses the 8-foot worth of debris that's washed up along the shoreline, builds a ladder up and out of Lockhart Gorge, and goes in search of someone to help them. Finds some guys at a place called Glenample Homestead, which is just the other side of the 12 Apostles. They come down and rescue Eva, and Tom and Eva spend 2 weeks recuperating at Glenample before heading back through to Melbourne and then back to their respective countries. Now, this is where the story gets interesting. This is where a bit of a love story begins. But I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story until we're back on the bus. Ah, the suspense. But welcome to Lockhart Gorge, guys. Now, there's a couple of different walks to do here. Number 1, and the walk that I suggest to everybody to do, goes from the other side of the car park over there. You'll see there's a sign with a red top that says Lockhart Gorge. That walk there will take you down into the gorge and onto the beach. It is beautiful down there. But it is, there are stairs on that walk. There shouldn't be much wind in the gorge though, which will be nice. But if you do want to see the gorge but you don't want to do stairs, where you've got this line of cars just here, guys, there's a little path that goes off into the trees there. That path will take you along the top of the gorge. You can look down into the gorge on that walk, but you cannot access it. And then finally, guys, there is another one over here that takes you to two other formations, the Island Archway and the Razorback. But honestly, Lockhart Gorge is what we come here for. Highly recommend that. Now, guys, we're going to be here till about a little bit before 1 o'clock. So if we can please be back on the bus at the latest 1 o'clock, so we can start to get to our next stops, okay? If it starts to rain, I'll come back to the bus so you got, because there's no shelter anywhere here, so if it does start to rain, I'll run back to the bus and open it for you, okay? But jump on out, I'll see you guys around 1 o'clock. You got the Lockhart there?